Hey there, welcome. Welcome to Rise and Receive, a reset point in your day where you get to explore how to receive your fulfillment by unlearning struggle. So, I'm in the Pacific Northwest, and like many places throughout the country, we've been dealing with kind of a freeze crisis, lost power. I know it's really bad in some other parts of the country. So we're starting our week with Rise and Receive on Wednesday, but I am committed to offering three opportunities to explore how to receive fulfilling relationships and opening the flow gates. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a particular blind spot today. I'm really excited to launch this brand new week on receiving fulfilling relationships because not only is this a topic that affects each and every one of us, but this actually gives me an opportunity to shine the light on the power of receiving, kind of like the big picture, the vision that I have, and why I'm so passionate about teaching people how to receive. So I'm just going to start by kind of giving you like the nutshell version of why receiving is so incredibly important. I like to say that receiving, learning the skill set of receiving, is one of the most generous things you can do because it's what allows us to shift from being lack-based consumers to overflowing contributors. And what tends to happen is when we are pursuing our goals in our life and we over rely on the doing model of power without really knowing how to access the being model of power, what that tends to do is make us consumers or takers. It's because we're trying to manifest things because we are disconnected from how this thing that we want could actually already be here and be alive within us. We actually are operating from a lack-based perspective. So I'm going to shine the light today on the consumer blind spot. And as we illuminate how that plays out in our relationships, then you're going to also have an opportunity to make a shift so that you can open the flow gates to receiving fulfilling relationships. So let's start with talking about what a blind spot is. The way I define a blind spot is that it occurs when your current point of view hides an essential insight. So you're seeing relationships one way, that's all you can see, but there's something else you need to see that's blocking the perspective, the insight that you need to have it be more fulfilling or to get unstuck or move out of dissatisfaction. So that's the blind spot. That's what a blind spot is. And a receiving blind spot occurs when you're operating more as a human doing versus a human being. Most of us know how to do. When we want something, doesn't matter what it is, weight loss, relationships, money, a better job, we tend to approach it through the doing model of power, or what I call the hunter perspective, which means we identify a target on the horizon, we start thinking about it and strategizing and analyzing, and then we take a whole bunch of action. And the hunter basically is operating like a consumer. There's something I need to go get because I don't have it. I'm hungry, right? Now, the being model of power is like the majestic tree. The majestic tree is powerful simply because it exists. It stands there as an invitation. And not only does it receive everything that it needs all day long, but I'm going to venture to guess, although I'm not a tree, much of what it wants. So it receives. Now, it receives unselectively, which means it doesn't say, I'll receive this, but I won't receive that. It learns how to receive all day long. So it becomes skilled at receiving. Receiving is its own skill set. And when you tap into the being model of power and you understand the power of being and how to receive, not only can you receive the things you do want with joy and fulfillment, but you actually become liberated to receive the things you don't want, which sounds crazy, but here's the thing. We receive things we don't want all day long because pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. You can't control life. But what happens is when pain comes in because we don't have an empowered relationship with it, we try to control it. We do what the hunter does. We try to kill it by, battling it, or we protect ourselves with our shield. And what that does is it actually blocks the flow of what life is trying to give you. But when you can receive the things you don't want from life, because that's just part of life, there is pain, it can actually move on through and you don't have to suffer. And that keeps the flow going to the things you do want. So with that, what I wanted to share with everyone is this particular Rise and Receive is inspired by one of the cards from my Receive Oracle card deck called Receive Love. And if you want a whole video on that whole card, I'm going to include a link to it. So that's where I'm going to be taking some of the inspiration this week. But in addition to that, I actually got a request from a viewer after last week's Rise and Receive series. And I'm going to share it with you because it's really such a powerful way to dive into this topic. So here we go. Sonia, I would love to hear more about relationships in regards to conflict or disagreements. I'm having a difficult time letting go of anger and judgments of my family in another state because of their political views. Going to work on what you talked about today and focusing on my gratitude and honoring my relationship with them. At this point, we just can't talk about politics at all, which I guess is fine and it might always be that way, but I always wonder if there might be a way to have a conversation. So, another reason this is such an important topic, because this is actually something that we don't have to look very far to see this type of friction or conflict occurring. We're at a time in our country where there is a lot of divisiveness, polarization, right-wrong thinking, and there's a way to practice receiving principles to really elevate our perspective, elevate the conversation, and tap into the power of receiving to be, again, generous contributors through the way that we relate to our relationships. Okay, so with that as background, let's talk about the consumer blind spot. So blind spots, by definition, are something that you can't see unless somebody points out the blind spot to you. So I like to give clues. And you know that the consumer blind spot might be at work if you're looking at your relationships from the point of view of a consumer. In other words, what can I get from this relationship? Now, I've always had that, or for a long time now, I've had that perspective that you need to shift in your relationships from a get from perspective to a share with perspective. I teach that in the Relationship Mastery Circle for Women that I taught and is now an audio program. And then in the last few years, I started working with a colleague, a mentor and a friend, and this is Marshall Bircher. He actually gave it a really great language, which I wanted to borrow from today. And that is talking about the difference between a consumer-based relationship versus a connection-based relationship. So when you are operating from what can I get from this relationship, or a relationship, as this particular person was talking about, she didn't actually name this, but this is usually what has us get stuck. When we're angry, when we're judgmental, we are actually wanting to get something from the relationship that we can't connect with within ourselves. Okay? But when you shift from trying to get something from the relationship, whether it's agreement, whether it's harmony, whether it's approval, whether it's feeling understood, because feeling misunderstood in our relationships, that's a real hot button for a lot of people. So we look to our relationships and we're trying to get something from it or from that person because we think that's what's necessary to have a successful relationship. But there's a lot of ways to have successful relationships with people that you might have conflict with or disagreement. And it comes from, first, making your relationship with yourself the primary relationship. You turn within when there's conflict and friction and you ask, what do I need here? What's the desire here? And instead of trying to get it from the other person, you connect with yourself. Okay, so that's the first part of connection. Then the other piece that comes into the receiving perspective is instead of trying to get something from that other person, you might want to explore, how can I actually receive this person exactly as they are? How can I just be curious? So when we start to approach our relationships from, I'm going to receive this person, I'm going to experience them real time, present time, rather than being up in my head and wanting something to be different. Receiving, being curious, and experiencing what's happening right now. Also staying open to experiencing what's happening inside of you. That lets you be in that relationship real time. And for this person, because she was saying, I'm feeling anger and judgment, that connection is about connecting with herself first. Because as she really starts to connect with herself and see what she needs as these feelings are arising, it will allow her to be more present to this person, to this relationship, and be in a discovery process about what kind of a relationship can I have here? And so all kinds of things become possible when we start to let go of the expectations and trying to get something from the other person. So I offer you that as an opportunity to explore and experiment. If you're feeling friction, if you're feeling conflict, if you're feeling anger, shift from trying to get something from the other person, whatever that may be, to connecting first with yourself and then bringing this new level of, I have what I need in my relationship with myself to the relationship, and see what you then receive in that experience. Something new can become possible. So I'm going to read you a little excerpt from the card, and this will just really drive it home a little bit deeper. So this is from the Receive Love card. Unless we've taken a little time to actually think about it, most of us believe that when it comes to love, we want someone to love us. What's often less obvious is what we actually desire when we say we want love is the feeling that arises within us when we feel love toward another. That pure feeling, that pure energy that flows from the inside out. This love is within you. It always has been and always will be. You struggle when you believe that you need another in order to feel it. But this love comes from your relationship with yourself. Want intimacy? How can you be intimate with yourself? Feel unappreciated by another? Where do you lack appreciation for yourself? Angry at another's lack of boundaries? Where are your boundaries weak within yourself? Next time you find yourself seeking love from another, stop and consider that your relationships are simply mirrors that point to places you can love yourself more. Then ask and explore, how would I be with myself right now if I treated myself with love? As you practice loving kindness for yourself, the physical world rises up to mirror you in expected and unexpected ways. So, as we do with every Rise and Receive, we activate the power of invitation. Invitation is the being model of power. Intention, like the hunter, is the doing model of power. Now, intention is good if you have a task and you know what you want. But when you're wanting to invite fulfillment, then we want to open up to the essence through willingness. There's a couple other ways that we activate the power of invitation, but willingness is one of the most powerful ways. So here you can apply this to your relationships to open the flow gates. I am willing to have the love within me come alive in my heart. So if there's friction, if there's conflict, you can either put all of your attention on that, on the judgments, on the anger, on the ways that that other person is wrong, or you can shift to connecting with yourself and simply be willing to connect with the love that already lives within you. Because one of the presuppositions of the being model of power is you already are all that you seek to be, do, and have. The majestic tree is always a tree. It's never missing. It's never absent of anything. It's not broken. Even as a seed, it has everything it needs once it's planted in the ground to be fully expressed. So when we're operating from the being model of power, we're operating from our wholeness. And when we become willing to experience it, that's when we start to feel fulfillment, because fulfillment is a feeling. It's not an achievement. You feel fulfilled. You don't think fulfilled. Feeling is the being model of power. Thinking is the doing model of power. So I hope that this is helpful. If it was, please like, please share. It helps me reach the people that I'm here to serve. You can also subscribe on my YouTube channel. Just click the red subscribe button. And if you want to take some next steps with receiving, there are no cost and low cost resources. The YouTube channel is definitely one of them. You can also get your own Receive Oracle cards. Just go to receivecarddeck.com. Pre-orders have opened up now, and if you do pre-order before they get here, and I can't wait to hold them in my hands to show you, they'll be here in April, you will get a gift bundle valued at $69, which includes an accompanying workbook to enrich your experience of the Receive cards, and there's 4 gift MP3 audios of my most popular classes, which include Have the Body You Love, From Job to Joy, True Prosperity, and From Lonely to Love. So covers the main topics of the things that people want. Have a great rest of your day. Check out the links above and below, and I'll see you at the next Rise and Receive. Bye, everybody.